Tech team. Venerable Geshe Lhakdor ji, it's the time for me to invite you and take over.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Respected Dr. Vishwanath Kararji, faculty members or dignitaries of the university, Rajiv ji and Darshan ji and students. It is a great honor for me to visit your university online. So these days when we talk about visiting place, online, you immediately get this feeling that you are almost like a pari, which can travel in the space and reach everywhere. So that's the marvel of science and technology. So it's really, really amazing to get this glimpse about university. And I was actually very struck just by the names of the university. World Peace University, what an ambitious title and what a great thought. It's not confined to just one small sect of religion, small sect of community, or even a country. World peace is an amazing idea. And then underneath there is another writer which says the world's first university for life transformation. Amazing, amazing, amazing. The vision, the greatness of the vision, there is no question about that. But how much we are able to implement, that's of course always a difficult task. But I am delighted to visit your university online and know a little bit about the good things that you are doing. And especially I must applaud your university for offering this chair of His Holiness Dalai Lama in collaboration of Rajiv ji and the Foundation for Universal Responsibility. And of course, if there is one person who is really wholeheartedly, totally, and lifelong kind of dedicated to world peace, I think there is no question about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So it is, of course, very, very worthwhile to have him. And I'm not saying this because I'm his, special follower or I'm a Tibetan. It's nothing to do with Tibetan or things like that. We need to think bigger. It's for world peace. It's for the greatness of India, peace in India, and so forth. So this is a wonderful thing that you have done. Because when we talk about spreading peace and spreading great ideas, these are almost like an uphill task because not many people will be able to appreciate it. If it is a question of coming up with a big structure, multi-million dollar structure with, amusement parks and things like that, then everybody will come and throw their money. But when you are opening up a university where these great ideas are available, then sometimes there is a dearth of kind of cooperation. So, but this is something that we must do, without which we are all going to have great problem. So therefore, it's a great privilege for me to say something today on the Nalanda tradition and its relevance today. And I'm sure you're all aware of this. I really don't have to say much and have nothing much to say. But I think it is important here to think it a little bit bigger because His Holiness, I know, has been for a long, long time talking about the importance of Nalanda tradition. And of late, he was not talking only about Nalanda tradition, but he's talking about the relevance of Indian tradition, or in other words, the revival of ancient Indian tradition. So the greatness of the Nalanda tradition must be brought about in the with the background of the ancient Indian tradition. I think this is much bigger thinking. I think it's very important. And I've met a number of people who keep on talking about Nalanda tradition, which is good. And I've been telling them, no. Of late, His Holiness is not talking only about Nalanda tradition, but he's talking about the revival of ancient Indian tradition. Now about this ancient Indian tradition, with the Nalanda tradition, I may have something to say, but with this bigger, background of the ancient Indian tradition, I mean, I really, honestly speaking, don't know much. But the little bit of reading that I've done here and there, it clearly says that we basically talk about this ancient Indian tradition as something like Indic civilization or Indic religion, which includes, of course, the Nalanda tradition. And we need to appreciate the fact that this Indic civilization is by far one of the longest civilization on this planet. And apart from its antiquity and magnitude, the special, very special feature of the Indic culture has been its extreme diversity and plurality, covering not only 5,000 years of continuing, practice of Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Islamism, Sikhism, and so forth. But as I was saying, that it also has these secular writings in many of these great traditions, which is really absorbing and full of wisdom. So we need to think it in a bigger kind of stance, because here we are not talking really about one particular religion. I think that's very, very important in terms of cultivating world peace and harmony around the world. Because human beings have, by nature, this tendency of focusing on small sections. Our mind is good for division, not so good for holistic approach and for harmony. So if we talk about emphasizing about the greatness of Hinduism or just greatness of Buddhism, or then within Buddhism also one particular school, we are very good, because we have at the center of all these approaches, we have this ahankar, the me, you see, my religion, my community, my nation, therefore this is the best. I think this kind of narrow-minded thinking now has not much place in this modern world, because of the speed of science and technology and other medias. We're all hurled and thrown into the face of each other, whether you like it or not. So this kind of small-minded division, saying that my one is the best one, everybody must follow it, or in some worst cases, people who don't follow it, you even try to eliminate them. And this is happening not only in the practice of religion, but in all kinds of ideologies. For example, what is being done in some of the communist countries and things like that, it's all evident. So that is really, really suicidal. So therefore, we need to know, number one, that this Indic religion or civilization has always been a dialogue religion, a dialogue philosophy. It is highly, highly encouraged that the teachers and the students must engage in serious dialogue. The students must always get opportunity to ask questions when things are not clear. And don't accept anything per se based on blind faith. That is a very, very unique feature in the Indic civilization. And unfortunately, all these things are gradually kind of waning out, which is a shame and which is very, very unfortunate. So I mean, even if you borrow just one line, which is normally cited by everybody, Indian wisdom based upon the ancient Rig Veda dictum, ekam satvi prabha bahuda vadanti. The truth is one. The wise call it by many names. This is something that everybody. These are the sources. You see that we are one. We are one. Truth is one. But today we live in an area where there's so much turmoil and transition, and nothing seems to be certain, and people are struggling to find what is the meaning of life. And when they don't get the right answer, in desperation, they do many stupid things. So under such a difficult changing situation, how can we pull the wisdom out of those ancient traditions, including the Nalanda tradition, to make it relevant in today's world? That is the question that you asked me to speak about, relevance of Nalanda tradition. So here, it's important to know that whether you call it the Nalanda tradition or the teaching of the Buddha, but today, of course, I will focus primarily on the philosophical and scientific part, not so much on the religious belief, which is also important in countries like India. So in if you think about this Nalanda tradition or the Buddhist tradition as a whole, as a whole, then what is really, really important is that the whole philosophy, the structure of the philosophy or religion, whatever you want to call it, is based on the law of nature. That's Nalanda tradition. Meaning that when we talk about doing Dharma practice, if you just think about this word Dharma, it is not really religion. Dharma here basically means law of nature. So what is being said in the Nalanda tradition or thereby the Buddhist tradition is that we must understand the law of nature as it is, without exaggeration, without denigration. This is important because we need to live our life in accordance with the law of nature. We need to live in harmony with the law of nature. That's why, in Buddhism, the teachings like suffering, it's the law of nature. It's not something invented by Buddha. We are all, have that kind of suffering. Similarly, he talks about impermanence. There's law of nature. Similarly, Buddha talks about, in the Nalanda tradition, we talk about the interdependent origination or shunyata. That's law of nature. And it is in fact clearly mentioned in the text that whether the Buddhas or the great Buddhist teachers come or not, but the ultimate, nature of everything is shunyata, whether they come or not. But unfortunately, we don't pay much attention to this basic fundamental law of nature, and we go by the appearances, how things appear, how things are functioning, what is the present environmental situation. So just almost like animals, we try to adapt to the changing situation, primarily running after the sensual needs and not so much going into the deeper level of the mind through meditation and so forth. So therefore, we are not able to solve many of our problems. So living a life which is like an animal is, of course, not useful, especially in the case of human beings with this great human intelligence and great brain, because you have this wonderful intelligence and great brain, you have this capacity to always ask questions and get answers, including deeper questions about reality and so forth. So unless you're able to address all these questions through contemplation, through what is known as the shamatha and vipassana, things like that, you are not going to solve the problem. So that's important. So therefore, in order to properly understand the law of nature or the reality, three things are mentioned in the Nalanda tradition. One is that if you look at the law of nature, you will see three things. One, what is known as the obvious phenomena, things that your senses can see. The eye can see something, the ear can hear something, the nose can smell something. So these are what is known as obvious phenomena, which you can directly see, which you can directly hear. So now in this area, if you want to really have more stable, peaceful life, what is important is you must use your senses to know this directly by yourself. Don't just go after listening to somebody. See it by yourself, hear it by yourself. If it is something that you have seen personally, you've heard personally, then you can say, yes, I know this is the truth, this is not the truth, because I've seen it, I've heard it, and so forth. This is important because even on this obvious level, many of us fail to use our senses to directly perceive the reality. Instead, in Hindi mein bolte hai na, kaha suna, that you keep on, going after the rumors. Now, in this case, not only us, even Aristotle made a big problem. I am tempted to tell this short story. Aristotle married, I think, two women. But he always kept on saying in many of his discourses that women have less teeth than men. Because he heard it from somebody and he never counted the teeth of his wives, although he married 2 times. So that's what I'm saying. So if you personally do not find things out and just keep on listening to other people and without understanding that properly, without proving it as a fact of the matter, if you go on spreading, things that about which you are not sure, then it creates a lot of problem in the society based on rumors, as we say. And especially in today's electronic age, it's very, very dangerous spreading rumors through online processes, which we are already experiencing. all over the world, especially these days. A lot of talk is going on that. So there's number one. Second, so there's nothing religion about that. This is something for our good life, we must do that. Second, and nature has given us this eye, the tongue, to taste. Nature has given us to take only those things which is important for you and not others. The second is what is known as the slightly hidden phenomena. There is an area of, area in the objective world which you cannot directly see by your senses. Now, even in the field of those, objects in the world which you cannot directly see, today with the help of science, the capacity to see more than what our naked eyes can see is possible because of use of scientific technologies. So we made a lot of advancement in this. Second, this is the area which is called as the slightly hidden phenomena, which you cannot directly perceive by your senses, but you can reason that out. For example, normally in Buddhism we say, for example, on the top of a distant mountain, if you see smoke, but if you do not directly see the fire, but you can reason out, you can infer that there must be smoke, there must be fire, or there must be people there who are cooking or burning something. So you can find out the presence of the fire and people there by seeing the smoke. So that is called inferential cognition. Inferential, that's extremely important. So again here, the role of reasoning is very, very important. Third is what is known as completely hidden phenomena, in which area you cannot directly perceive, you cannot also reason it out, but you have to rely on the statement of somebody. Now, for example, if I ask Darshanji, when were you born? He might say, I was born in such year and month and so forth. Then I again ask Darshanji, how do you know that you are born on this particular day, time, things like that? He can never answer this by saying, I have seen it myself, or I'm so clever, I reasoned it out. But he will say, my parents told me, right? So you have to trust their statement. Now, there is not a stupid decision, because there is a reason why you trust the statement of your parents. You trust the statement of your parents because parents, they love you, they love Darshanji, and they have no particular reason to tell lie about his, date of birth and things like that. So indirectly you reason out, but directly you need to rely on their statement. So these are the different processes of finding the truth. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is, to make a long story short, in the Nalanda tradition, using logic and reason. And once Buddha was visiting a certain particular area, then the people from different villages came to see him, and they said, our community is visited by many teachers. One teacher comes and give a teaching and says that this is the right path, this is the correct path, this is the best path, follow it. And after that sermon, he leaves. Then after a while, another teacher from different tradition comes and says, this is the short path, this is the quick path, this is the best path, follow it, this is the best. Then a third person comes, then a fourth person comes. All these teachers saying different things, but everybody is saying this is the best path, the short path, the quickest path. So we are confused. So how should we deal with this kind of situation? That is the question that they asked to the Buddha. The Buddha answered by saying that you should listen to all of these teachers, but at the end of the day, you use your common sense. Unfortunately, common sense is not very common, but this is what the Buddha said. Use your common sense. All of us got this brain, the same brain, same human intelligence, same capacity to analyze, to judge. That's, I think, that must be encouraged as a follower of the Nalanda tradition, questioning, finding things by oneself, not simply following somebody out of blind faith. Blind faith, in fact, has no place in the Nalanda tradition. I think that's very, very important. If it is something right now, you don't understand, then you don't need to comment on that as good or bad, or non-existent, existent. Just for the time being, just explore more, analyze more. Through that, if it is something that is existent, something that is true, you will be able to find it. If it is not existent, also you will be able to find it. So that is also a scientific approach. If you ask about the existence of future life and things like that to an unbiased scientist, they will never say that there's no afterlife. Of course, they will not say that there is afterlife. They will only say, no, this is not my field, I don't know. So that is honest. So similarly, with that kind of, unbiased aptitude is very, very important. Unbiased. One of the great, Nalanda tradition teacher, I think Shenda Rakshita, he said, if your mind is biased, you can never experience peace. Whether it is your attempt to understand the deeper meanings of philosophy or teachings, or even leading a good, harmonious life, if your mind is biased means not true to the reality. For example, if you 100,000 times you should say that I'm not impermanent, I'm permanent, I'm going to live forever. You just keep on saying this throughout your life. That will never make you live forever. Because the reality is that you are going to die. You're going to get sick. So your blind faith and ignorant persistence on things which is not true will never work. So much of the problems that we are facing in the world today is not knowing the reality. So reality must be known through direct perception, through inferential cognition, through reasoning, and things like that. It's very important. Let me give you, just because at the end of the day, the purpose of understanding the Nalanda tradition and the greatness of the Nalanda tradition, or thereby any tradition, is whether the practice of that philosophy, whether the living a life in that tradition is going to give you long-lasting happiness or not, whether it's going to give you peace or not, whether it's going to give you harmony or not. Otherwise, there are so many ways of wasting our time. Pastime ke liye to bahut kuch hai. So many things are there. We are not doing these exercises as a luxurious pastime pursuit. Many people in the world today do this. They have no idea what kind of life they are, so they need so many distractions, going here and there, wasting time. If that is what you want to do, you can do, but it is 100% sure that through this kind of wayward, careless life, we are not going to find the solution for the many problems of this world. Look at the state of the world right now to make the Nalanda tradition relevant. On the one hand, there's so much progress through science and technology in terms of providing all kinds of facilities, so-called facilities, amenities. But at the same time, because of our inner human inner poverty, I call it, much of the problems that we are facing today is due to inner poverty. Because we are always running outside to get that peace, that happiness, material pursuit. By doing this, and by leaving the mind empty, what we have achieved so far is that we have achieved, yes, for showpieces, there are many like fantastic shiny gadgets and great buildings and being able to fly and things like that. But in reality, look at the environmental destruction. If I just make one point, environmental destruction, which is threatening our very existence. Forget about all kinds of so-called progress, development. If the very life and existence of human beings are in threat, then what do you mean by all these so-called progresses? What do you mean by progress? And look at the state of our human education today. In the case of Nalanda tradition, the education of the Nalanda tradition is, of all, the most important thing is mental flourishing of the mind, inner development. Even when you talk about happiness, it's different from the happiness that is spoken by Aristotle and so forth, where they talk about the happiness in the object. That means the student must get happiness with the help of the teacher, with the help of the parent. That's what we are repeating today also. That's great. Yes, you need help. But what is being taught in Nalanda tradition in Buddhism is that happiness must be the children. It's not only the parents and the teachers trying to give some kind of security and safety and happiness. That is okay. But we must teach the children how to cultivate these inner qualities by himself or herself. How can we cultivate conviction in the mind of these students so that in their ups and downs in life, they're able to handle the situation, they're able to solve the problems, they're able to develop a larger perspective, not focusing only the happiness of the family and the individual person, but whole globe, whole world. And for that, there is no second method. The only method is going within oneself and bringing out those inner qualities in our daily life, not just talking, but through practice. Now let us make a small I'm trying to now convince you a little bit because this is important, right? We can keep on talking so many things, but few things that I really want to convince you. Now we have what we call as external development, internal development. Science, technology, and the modern world is focusing on external development, even at the best state. The inner development is almost not there. Look at the state of education, for example. Education means reading, writing, mathematics. But education in the true sense of the term is, as I was saying, inner flourishing, the flourishing of the human person, right? Which is not there. So there's because of that, despite a lot of schooling and education, how people are treating each other, how much sense of responsibility is there in terms of bringing genuine love, genuine compassion. Look at the state of the world leaders, for example. How many of the world leaders today are really, really compassionate and looking after their country in general, and especially the poor people? No, they're all working for, the business and the show business, hardly caring about really, really downtrodden, poor, weak people, clearly showing that they don't have genuine love and compassion. Okay, carry on. If you now let people continue in this way, then look at now if you focus on developing only the material thing, then we need to see from where are you going to get that material development. The source of material development is minerals, natural resources, water, and so forth, right? The natural resources are, by definition, physical resources. Anything that is material and physical, by definition, has a limitation. How can you make unlimited progress from limited resources? If you're not convinced, we can now see today. We have been doing this so-called material progress, and in the name of doing that material progress, we have been excavating and destroying all the natural resources. Where are we today? What is the state of environment? What is the state of natural resources today? It has already started and done a lot of damage. And very soon, we will completely deplete or pollute or misuse these natural resources when nothing really will be there for us to use. For example, water resources, for example. Now everywhere there is a shortage of water. That means you're going to die soon. And we are not thinking about all these practical things, you see. What are you talking about? Progress, development, what are you talking about? When you are not able to provide the basic necessities, clean air, clean water, what big ideas are you talking about? So therefore, unless you have these inner qualities of love, of compassion, of harmony, we are going to destroy ourselves. As simple as that. So my main point is, in the case of external development, there should be contentment, because external material resources have limitation. You cannot make unlimited progress in that area. Therefore, it is better to be sensible to have contentment. Now, in the case of internal mental development, there is no limitation. It's all yours. Here we are all contented. I did 5 minutes meditation this morning, as if you've done a great thing. I mean, in the Nalanda tradition, it is clearly said that if you check yourself carefully, your whole being and life, your way of thinking is conditioned by, unfortunately, negative emotions. You have this die-hard habit. How are you going to destroy these negative tendencies and habits with just 5 minutes meditation, maybe in a 1 week? How are you going to do that? If you are suffering from a very severe chronic illness, how are you going to hope to get that cured just by taking one tablet of medicine? So therefore, I really appreciate the opportunity your university is giving. And His Holiness's focus on Nalanda tradition or revival or Indian tradition is basically talking about almost like the secular aspects. Yes, in the Buddhist tradition, Indian tradition, we believe many lives to come, things like that. This is really great, which those of us who are interested, we can always explore, not only explore, but very important from Buddhist viewpoint. But for the majority of the people who are not necessarily believers, some of them may even be anti-religion, even for that, it is important to regulate one's emotions. It's important to lead a life based on reasoning. So the two most important feature of this ancient Indian tradition, thereby Nalanda tradition, is finding the truth and reality through reasoning, through evidence, through proof. And then second, most important thing is finding out about the reality of your human emotions. There's a rich kind of teaching and philosophy in the Buddhist tradition about how to control one's emotions, how many types of negative emotions that there are, positive emotions that there are, what are the harms of these negative emotions, what are the benefits of the positive emotions, then how to transform yourself. And this is part of your program, transforming your life. So transforming your life cannot be done just by wearing smart dresses and then, putting some ornaments on the ear and things like that. No, the real transformation basically means dharma. Dharma basically means transforming your attitude. That means from negative to the positive. Now, how do you do that? You should do that by using your reason. That this is important for me. This kind of, for example, negative emotion like anger is destructive and bad for me, based on your own reasoning and experience. And then contrarily, the importance of practice of patience, based on your own reasoning and experience. Now, for example, I'll just give you a hint, and then later on, your university can open another project of doing research on this. I sincerely wish you do that. And I tell this to students who during many of my talks. For example, now anger, for example. Is there anybody who right in the morning makes a motivation saying that I will get angry today? I don't think so. Because you have some idea that anger is not good. So you don't go with a motivation to get angry. Second, when you go out without having this motivation to get angry, but unfortunately in the public place, in your workplace or in your office, you meet strange people, you pick a fight with them, you get angry, sometimes even exchange feasts and so forth. Then at the end of the day, when you return home, then think about the day you spent, that you fought with somebody, you got very angry. Is there anybody who in the end of the day say that I was angry today, fought with somebody, therefore I really enjoyed the day? As simple as that. Then there's so many things we can talk about, scientifically or even based on our personal experience. So many things we can talk about. For example, if you are a young woman, you try to make yourself look beautiful by using all kind of cosmetics and putting on earrings. And young men also, you comb your hair and make sure that your shirt, the color of your shirt is okay. You want to look handsome and beautiful, right? Now, with all this makeup and decoration and preparation, you get angry. For example, imagine somebody who is having this heavy cosmetics on the face and then golden earrings, and then get angry. How does she look now? Is she beautiful? Despite all this ornament, external ornaments, because of anger, she now looks horrible, not beautiful, right? Then through anger, your blood pressure increases. You're experiencing that. Doctors are saying that. What more evidence you want about that? And then all the killings, conflicts that is happening around the world. How many? How many? Hundreds and thousands are killed almost on a daily basis in different parts of the world out of anger. Therefore, anger has always been compared to fire, conflagration of fire. So with this kind of analysis and research, you need to come to the conclusion, yes, anger is bad for my health. Anger is extremely destructive for harmony, peace. So with this understanding, you should reduce your anger, reduce your jealousy, reduce your attachment, reduce your greed. For example, in the case of greed, as Mahatma Gandhi clearly said, there is enough for everybody as far as our need is concerned, but there's not enough to fulfill our greed. And it is the greed that is destroying everything. Everybody in the world is today, everybody is saying, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. Everybody's running. And I have been telling people, it's not important to be busy. What is important is what are you busy about? You're busy primarily for getting money. That also not for other people, just for yourself. How much is how much? How much you need? Right? So therefore, what I'm really trying to say is the special feature of the Nalanda tradition is how to bring about this internal transformation by clearly identifying and understanding the destructive negative emotions and lessening them and gradually, if possible, removing them and replacing these negative emotions with positive emotions like loving kindness, compassion, patience, harmony, so forth. And all this is possible if you have a bigger picture of the whole reality, bigger picture of the whole reality, bigger understanding of the way things are. Now, how this kind of deeper understanding is going to help you transform your life? For example, I give you an example. For example, if you have a very good understanding that we are all going to die, that's a reality. Normally, we don't think about it. Forget about thinking about it. If I tell somebody, oh, maybe I'm going to die soon, then they'll say, oh, aise ashubh baat mat karo. Don't use such bad word. They see it as something not fit to be said by the mouth. But the reality is, if you really have this understanding, I'm going to die, number one. Number two, but I'm not sure when I'm going to die. Death can be any time. If you're somebody who really has a very good understanding and grasp on that meaning, your life will be completely transformed. If you're somebody who has this understanding that I'm going to die, others are going to die, how can you harm others who are going to die? How can you bring suffering on others who are already suffering? So it's so important to understand the way things are, their reality. I have always been given an example to people. For example, the wonderful thing is that if with these positive emotions, when you understand the way things are, when you understand the reality, it will help you develop and strengthen the positive emotions. It will help you remove and lessen the negative emotions. That is something that I found out. It's very, very interesting thing. When you understand the reality, for example, let us say in front of us, there is a 99-year-old man or woman, extremely sick, with wounds all over the body, pus oozing out. If there is such an old man or woman lying in front of us, will we develop attachment to that woman? that I want to marry this dying 99-year-old woman, that kind of desire, attachment will not come because you have seen the reality of that person. Negative emotions doesn't come. Similarly, will you develop hatred, saying that this ugly 99-year-old woman, let us go and give a kick? I don't think so. Instead, majority of us will say, oh, very poor woman, give her some water, take her to the hospital. At least we'll develop some sympathy. Positive emotions will come. The negative emotions will not come. That's the benefit of understanding reality. So therefore, there is so much emphasis in the Nalanda tradition to understand the reality, bigger one. Now, if you take this to a bigger perspective, the whole world, that's why you are thinking about the peace for the whole world, which is really, really great, right? Because we are now in a situation where anything that happens in any part of the world is going to disturb us, going to affect us, right? So we are almost in a situation of singing or swimming together. So there's no room. We cannot be complacent and thinking just about oneself, right? So therefore, one of the reasons why we develop this division and possessiveness, clinging and grasping comes is because of our petty mind, narrow-mindedness. I read in a book about, for example, it says the bird which flies in the sky, flies in the space. Although the bird flies in the space several times, but the bird will never think that space is my home. Space belongs to me. Because the nature of the space itself is such that there's no obstruction. There's no border. It's not barricaded for anybody. So anybody can enjoy and fly into that space. So that's why in the Nalanda tradition, we talk about the interdependent origination or shunyata, which has always been compared to a space. And so once you understand that bigger ultimate reality of everything in the nature of shunyata or emptiness, you will be able to find the sameness of everybody in terms of the ultimate reality, shunyata, your shunyata and my shunyata, absolutely same. Even the shunyata of the Buddha and my shunyata, absolutely same. There's no division. There's no division, right? So it's only from that state of shunyata, things arise, but for a moment, and then they disappear. In fact, if you think carefully about our own life, we tend to hold on to our life, cling on to our life as if we are going to live forever. But life is just a flow, just a flow. The person you were yesterday and today completely different. So anyway, so let me conclude. I can read the darshans.
No, sir, I want to have enough time for Q&A. I
Yes,
can see many questions coming in, so that's all.
That's good. I also will enjoy more.
Yes, thank you, sir.
But I
Thank
wanted
you.
to, before trying to talk big things, I wanted to, highlight few points so that people are able to think more about it. So therefore, I will conclude by His Holiness's thinking, what we call as his 4 commitments. I will conclude with that. 4 commitment means, as a human being, you have a human responsibility to all human beings. As a religious practitioner, you must think about religious harmony. Then as an Indian, as a Tibetan, you do that work for your country also. Then 4th is the revival of ancient Indian tradition. So which is, I think, relevant not only to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but responsibility of all of us. And I teasingly tell all my Indian friends, His Holiness the Dalai Lama calls himself son of India because he's the spiritual son of Gautama Buddha. And I tease my Indian friends by saying Gautama Buddha was an Indian, not Tibetan. So even from that point of view, our Indian brothers and sisters have a special obligation to revive that lost great tradition of Buddha in India. And the Tibetans have a great responsibility, even though Tibetans have encountered most unfortunate situation, having lost our country. But luckily, we are also getting an opportunity here in India. So therefore, it is the joint responsibilities of Tibetans. Many of the scholars are really, really well versed in the Indian Nalanda tradition, work together with our Indian brothers, sisters to share this rich tradition to the rest of the world. And I must end by saying that the connection between India and Tibet is not political relationship, not economical relationship, but primarily spiritual relationship. So let this spiritual relationship survive for a long, long time. Thank you very much.
Rajiv ji, will you take over for the question and answer session, please?
Thank you, Darshan Bhai. What can I say? I think that, thank you, Geshe Lhakdor. I think, I've been a struggling student for 40 years, and Geshe Lhakdor so eloquently and incisively has done sort of like a revision, a summing up of all the things that we have been trying to learn and internalize. And I think the great, he was talking about His Holiness in India, and His Holiness, has often said that, the Indians are the guru and the Tibetans are the chelas. And I think the role has been reversed. Of course, His Holiness is the primary guru, but now we have, so the other gurus. We have a tradition in the Tibetan Buddhism of senior tutor and junior tutor. So we have His Holiness, of course, is the preeminent guru, but we have people like Lhakdor who are now gurus to us Indians. And so our gratitude to you, Lhakdor, for your profound wisdom. Because time is short, I'm just going to sum up the questions so that Geshe Lhakdor can just respond to them together rather than break them up. It'll be. I think that the 2-3 strands of the questions that have come up is that how do we reconcile our spiritual aspirations with the issue of right livelihood? So if someone is working in a job in a multinational corporation to make a living, so I think that issue of right livelihood has come up. The second issue that has come up in these questions is that what do we do with somebody else's hostility or evil, like that of a terrorist, and how do we respond to that? And I think the third one is really that when you have diverse religions, philosophies, and traditions, how do we retain our identity and yet be respectful for all? What if there is a seeming conflict between them? And I just wanted to say my 2 penny bit is that I think that the great the great lesson for us in His Holiness the Dalai Lama is that we are so deeply honored and privileged to be born at a time when a living Buddha like His Holiness is on the planet, because he not merely teaches but embodies the aspirations that Lhakdor has been talking to us about. And so it gives us the hope that in human form we see that what Lhakdor is talking about is possible, because there is someone amongst us who represents that. So this is not an abstract aspiration, but one that can be fulfilled. So, over to you, Lhakdor, to respond to some of these questions that have come.
So, both in the Buddhist or Nalanda tradition, what is, I think, being taught is try your best. I think you need to understand that. For example, the first question was about livelihood in general, and especially corporate livelihood, where there's a lot of pressure. And I get this question repeatedly from many people. So therefore, I want to tell you that what is being taught in Buddhism or Nalanda tradition is try your best. You cannot become Buddha in one day. Even in the case of Buddha himself, it took many kind of eons to become Buddha. Right? So our motivation should be good. As much as possible, do not lead a hypocritical life. Wrong livelihood means getting something through hypocrisy. For example, if I, because now you're listening to me, if I pretend that I'm somebody who has this clairvoyance, I can read your mind and things like that, which I don't have, then that's called hypocrisy. So through that, if I earn my livelihood, there's wrong livelihood. Then wrong livelihood through flattering, just to get your money or just to get promoted. If you just flatter, especially in the cases of some boss who is really, really nasty in the wrongdoing, but still just to get your money, if you flatter, become a bootlicker, there's wrong livelihood. Don't it, right? Then also like taking things which is not given to you, even if it is a pen, belonging to your student, because the pen is nice. So therefore, oh, this is such a nice pen. Can I have it? And then the poor student will have to say, yes, yes, my teacher, take it. There is also wrong livelihood. So of course, there are other many like ways of livelihood through, uh, exploitation, bullying, all this kind of things. You try to avoid it as much as possible. And then sometimes there are situations where you really think this is like horrible life, everything that you're doing is bad, then you should, if possible, look for other opportunity. You don't just go there. Money is important, but your life is more important. Your happiness is more important. So therefore, as much as possible, I'm saying, find ways not to have to engage in those of destructive, you know, uh, ways of life, right? So that's all I want to say. So use your common sense again here. Then dealing with the wrongdoers, if you have done nothing but people are bullying you, they are terrorists and things like that. Then you imagine like a tufan, a volcano or tsunami. When tsunami come, what will you do? When if there is a big storm, what will you do? They are almost like terrorists, coming uninvited and bringing havoc. What would you want to do? One, you should live your life in such a way, in the case of environmental destruction, so that much in advance you think about it, so that these things doesn't come. Because much of the problem that we are suffering today is our creation, man-made sufferings. Much of the sufferings are man-made sufferings. Natural disasters sometimes understandable, but we can avoid many of these man-made disasters. So there's one thing that we should. So what I'm trying to say is, the so-called terrorists or unhappy people, they are product of the society. We cannot just kill them and eliminate them. So therefore, we need to come up with a system of education and plan, a way of life where there is care, where there is love, where there is affection, so that people don't resort to these negative activities like becoming a terrorist and things like that. I once visited that drug-ridden area, what they call this Colombia, yeah. So there's a constant, even when you right from the place, particular place to the airport, there's a risk that you may be kidnapped or you may be killed and things like that. I was there 2 times. They invited me to give some Buddhist teachings. So one of the questions that they asked is, how do you deal with this terrorist? Right at the beginning, I was dumbfounded. I don't know what to answer. Then later on, I reflected a little bit. Then I thought, this so-called terrorists did not drop from the sky. They also have family. They also have husband, wife, children, and so forth. So I really doubt and think, I don't think that they also, encourage their wife and children to become violent and aggressive and angry and fight all that. I don't think so, right? So therefore, there must be a larger plan of how to accommodate these people into the mainstream of the society, that they get a decent job. If you have a decent job, if you have a big shop, things like that, I don't think they will engage in terrorism and things like that, right? Then some are, of course, religious fanaticism, whatever. So, but still, this, my main point is still these are like happening in the human society. So therefore, the solution must be found through proper planning and thinking. Then the most important thing is you yourself should be very careful in your life. Don't go to those places where you should not be going, right? So normally, you may be completely innocent, but you have this habit of going everywhere. Then you become a big victim to the explosion implanted by a terrorist and things like that. So how much you will suffer also primarily dependent upon your behavior. The second thing. Then about this third question about diverse religion. Just as there is countless human mental thinking and dispositions, interests, diverse religions are bound to come. And they should not be seen as bad or not needed and things like that, because we have so many human mental dispositions and needs. So therefore, His Holiness the Dalai Lama clearly said, if you ask this question, which religion is best, that's a stupid question. It's like asking, which medicine is best. Stupid question. For you, that medicine is best, which is good for curing your particular illness. But because of that, you cannot say this is best for everybody. So for you, particular religion may be good because of your background, because of your upbringing, because of your mental disposition. But that does not mean to say it's good for everybody. And in fact, His Holiness gave this beautiful example, several examples. One example is he gave the example of a departmental shop. In a big mall or department shop, if they sell only shoes, not many people will go there because it's not able to cater to the needs of many people. But if it has many varieties of commodity, it will be able to serve many customers. So therefore, it's not question of who is best, which is good, but it's how that religion serves people. That's important. But the unfortunate thing is sometimes the religion, without understanding one's own religion, you use your own religion and then try to justify your negative emotion. You use your religion and then bring destruction. So there's unfortunate. Okay.
Thank you, Lakdor, for both the wisdom and for what you said and who you are. And again, just sort of in keeping with the spirit of His Holiness, one of the fastest growing segments in American society, for example, are people who describe themselves as friends of Buddhism, which really means that these are people who don't feel the obligation to become Buddhist or the label of Buddhism, but to be able to learn from different traditions and to assimilate them. And it is this, how do I put it, inclusiveness that makes it, His Holiness embodies that he's comfortable with going to a mosque, wearing a skull cap and doing the namaz, experientially, or to go to a church and put a cross around him. So it is not merely a theoretical commitment or an intellectual one, but a truly lived experience of celebrating diversity. I'm sorry, I didn't want to take time, but I really wanted to flag, when as a student of His Holiness, that His Holiness embodies these ideas. He doesn't just talk about them. I just want to end with and hand over to Dr. Karat for his closing comments with the question that has been asked here, and saying that, would you share with us, what are the things that the World University of Peace is doing to handle the violence and intimidation by some religions or some people acting on behalf of some religions onto other religions. And, the dome that you have built, in fact, has representatives of different religious traditions. So you are already sending out a message of inclusiveness. But in terms of the programs and initiatives, perhaps you could share with us what it is that MIT is doing to nurture in real terms this philosophy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raju Mehrotraji. For first thing is that for making this possible, to establish this His Holiness Dalai Lama Chair, jointly with the World Peace University, symbolically represented by the Sun Philosopher St. Dhaneshwara World Peace Dome, which is nothing but a spiritually oriented scientific laboratory. having about 54 statues of the greatest saints, sages, seers, scientists, and philosophers of the whole world, who I said in the beginning too, who are the makers of the world history. And everybody has now started talking, promoting the culture of peace. Rajivji, really I feel highly satisfied when I just heard the words of wisdom spoken by Dr. Geshe Lhakdor and gave an insight about the Nalanda tradition, the Buddhist tradition, gave a wonderful glimpse of what religion stands for, what the spirituality stands for, and what ultimately it aims at, wherein he made a mention of so many things, when I was especially impressed by just making a quotation of the ancient Indian wisdom. Many times it's called the ancient Vedic wisdom. He made a mention of the Atharva Veda quotation too, which I am really tempted to sum up this whole program, which says fellowship. Friends, we are the birds of the same nest. We may wear different skins. We may speak different tongues. We may believe in different religions. We may belong to different cultures. Yet, friends, we share the same home, the Mother Earth. Born on the same planet, covered by the same skies, gazing at the same stars, breathing the same air, we must learn to progress together or miserably perish together. For a person can live individually, but can only survive collectively. I'm really grateful for making the comments on the sustainable development part of the universe. This Mother Earth, the very globe where we have been surviving very in a critical, horrifying situation of the coronavirus, which has given a clarion call to the whole world to understand what this Mother Nature stands for. Mother Nature, the laws of the universe, laws of various religions, the themes and aims which are spoken by different religious heads and people, but ultimately leading to the same path, the same goal, which we call the ultimate truth, the ultimate reality. I'm just very glad to make a mention before Honorable Geshe Lhakdor and Rajiv Mehrotraji that I just felt like it has been good fortune for us that we have been meeting at a very appropriate time. And we have to take up this challenge to promote this very concept of understanding of the role of science and spirituality with an appropriate understanding of the religion itself, whether it is Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, Sikhism, or whatever religious Christianity. I feel that it's high time now to network them, unifying the minds, unifying the hearts and minds, unifying the spirits of the people. And I have a feeling, sincere feeling, I feel it has been a little late, but I really give good luck to Mr. Darshan Mundra that you could talk to Rajiv Mehrotraj and bring us together. I said in the beginning to Rajivji that I have a sincere feeling in the present situation of the horrifying situation of coronavirus, when there is a big rat race of power game, of developing the biological chemical weapons, which is nothing but the result of this coronavirus itself, the COVID-19. Who is going to really make it suppress? And rather, as Mr. Geshe Saab has said, that instead of doing something good for the society, the poor and the needy of the whole world, where are these powerful nations? Where are these great people who are called the members of the council, Security Council? What are they doing? What is their duty? What is your duty or my duty? What I feel, as you said, Rajivji and even the Geshe Saab, that His Holiness Dalai Lama, who has been himself an embodiment of the spirit what you're talking about, the knowledge part of it, which has been really conveyed in Panchasila of Gautama Buddha. But I do not see the difference between Sant Dhaneshwara and Gautama Buddha. I do not see the difference between the Islamic religion or the Hindu religion or Buddhist religion. They are one. All the world religions and the scriptures of the world religions are nothing but the life guiding scriptures. They try to give the guidance to the life, the society. And I have a feeling that this message has been conveyed by Tathagat Gautam Buddha more than 2000 years back. And the same words of wisdom were spoken by Sant Dhaneshwara 730 years back. I'm not to teach or preach you anything, friends, but I've been repeatedly telling now that I feel fortunate that I could see and understand the words of wisdom or the principles and laws of secrets of the universe. I'm saying scientific secrets of the universe. The 9 universal principles, wherein a mention has been made about the Krodha, काम अर्थ काम मोक्ष, ये जो बात है इसमें विकृति है. Very important thing I would like to make a mention to you, friends. At least at this age now, I have started understanding that the whole mechanism of human body or a creature or any other part of the life has a body and the brain, the intellect. The body, the brain or the intellect, and the other part is the spirit, consciousness, and the mind. And it's the mind which plays the role, very typically has been trying to give either the negative way or a positive way. Now our education system has to have a new mode or a new dimension, which I'm calling it as a Global Education Managing Council for World Peace. Rajiv ji, I appeal to you and our Honorable Chief Guest that we must come closer to devise a little bit different way of education system, not only giving more emphasis on the intellect or the brain aspect, which is developing the coronavirus, the global weapons. And it is the bell of Hiroshima, which has started ringing once again on its own, giving a clarion call to the whole world: be cautious, be patient, and be humble, be having some passion and the fire in your belly to do something good for the whole of human race, the whole of humanity, for the well-being of the humanity. Somewhere some message is coming wherein I feel that I should certainly try to promote this culture, which has been the embodiment, again I repeat, from the bottom of my heart, that Dalai Lama, His Holiness, has been really truly a noble soul on this Mother Earth as on today, who is symbolically representing the Tathagat Gautam Buddha, and that will really possibly resolve the issues which the world is facing. And that is what is promoting culture of peace. That is what is world peace itself. Thank you, Rajuji. Thank you, Honorable Chief Guest of today. I'm grateful. I feel like keeping it continued. And Darshan, your duty, you did a good job with Rajuji. Let's go ahead, join hands together. Thank you so much. Pranam. Pranam. Pranam.
Thank you, sir.
Pranam.
Thank you. With this, we arrive. I think this session could go on, Reverend Geshe-la, we could go on with this session. I personally have so many questions, and I can see many questions pouring in. But with the time, being mindful of that, we need to conclude the session. To conclude the session, I invite Dr. Milind Patre to give his word of thanks. Please.
Thank you. Pranam. Esa Dhammo Sanantano. On behalf of Dr. Vishwanath Karad, MIT World Peace University, I sincerely express my gratitude to Venerable Geshe Lhakdor, disciple of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and director of Tibetan Library and Archives. Sir, your wisdom, your words, your advice was very straight, coming straight from the interiority. And the biggest problem, as you said, is not knowing the reality. And yes, obviously, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, that is the cornerstone, that is the basic premise on the building of the world's biggest dome. Thank you so much for enlightening us and for this wonderful words of wisdom. I also humbly express sincere gratitude to Sri Rajiv J. Mehrotra, co-founder of the Dalai Lama Chair at MIT WPU, trustee of Foundation for Universal Responsibility of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you so much, Rajiv Ji, and looking forward to the third Dalai Lama series lecture next month, please. I also sincerely thank Professor Revered Dr. Vishwanath D. Karad sir, UNESCO chairholder and founder president, MIT World Peace University, Sri Rahul Karadji, executive president, MIT World Peace University, and my dear colleague, Sri Darshan Ji, for hosting such an insightful session. I also sincerely thank all the dignitaries, faculties, staff, students from MIT World Peace University, all the audience, tech team, and communication team. Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam. Pranam.
Thank you. With this, with the permission of the dais, I would like to call the lecture to conclusion today. Thank you, Geshe Lhakdor ji. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and for making our weekend bright. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you.